Hello, I am Chandu Nair handling the course on marketing management. Now we are going to talk about marketing of services. A lot of our attention always is on products because that's what we see around us, that's what we can touch and feel. But increasingly services are becoming important. A lot of people don't realize services constitute perhaps the biggest chunk of most economies, and it's important for us to understand how to market services better. So, if you look at this chapter, these are the things that we'll attempt to cover. What exactly is the meaning of service, the importance of the service sector very quickly, the difference between products and services, which we've already covered to some extent in earlier discussions, but we'll go through in more detail here, the classification of services, the marketing mix for services and how it's different from products, quality management in services and the measurement of and management of service quality, and how to take care of gaps in service quality. So let's get on with the first thing, which is what exactly is a service. Now there are many definitions, and it's important for us to look at this, that it is any activity or benefit that one party can offer another which is intangible. Intangible means that you cannot touch or feel and does not result in the ownership of anything. You cannot actually own it like you can own a product which you can touch and feel, like a computer or a phone or a toothpaste. Its production may or may not be tied to a physical product. So there are several very interesting things here. One, that it is intangible, cannot be touched or felt. Two, that you cannot possess it or own it typically. And number three, it may or may not be tied to a physical product. This is by Kotler, Armstrong, Saunders and Wong, and this kind of definition would help you understand this in comparison to a product. Why is it very important? From time immemorial, services have been provided. Among the earliest kinds of activities are service related activities. Many biblical references to various provision of services exist. Even in India, people have been providing teaching, knowledge services and other kinds of services. In many Western countries, many developed economies, it actually contributes to almost 3/4 or more of the total GDP of that particular country. And there is a huge problem really of measuring services, because how much does a service get priced at, costed at, valued at? So, to reiterate, there are some critical features of services. One, that it can't be touched, intangibility. Two is inseparability. We'll talk about it a little more. Three, is it variability, because it can change from each occasion of delivery. Fourth is its perishability, because it cannot be stored and kept. And finally, you cannot own it. So, if one wants to understand what is a good service, those 5 characteristics of the fact that it cannot be touched, it cannot be seen or felt, if you take examples of all of these, and then you will be able to understand what is a good service. If you were to go, a typical example is, if you were to go to a place and take, for example, a theater, you're going to see a movie. Now the person who addresses you at the counter is providing you a service. Now if a person changes, the service quality could change. So as you can make out, there are several things which change with time. A provision of cell phone service, you cannot keep that minute of cell phone with you. Once it's over, it's over. A cell phone company cannot sell it tomorrow. What is available today, an airline seat is available today, it's not available tomorrow. Services differ from company to company which provides it. Between the same time of day itself, when you go in the morning it could be different, in the evening it could be different. You look at the experience you've had with airlines, train services, bus services, if you take travel for example, or in hospitality, you look at the different experiences you had with the same hotel chain or across different hotels within different regions, and you will find a remarkable amount of variation in the quality, in the type of service that's provided. So what really is a good service? Pure goods and pure services today are conceptual extremes. That means it's very difficult to get something which is just a pure product, it's bundled with a service. Similarly, many services today are also tied up with some kind of provision of some tangible item or a product. So many products therefore today are a combination of goods which can be touched, seen, felt, and the intangible, perishable, non-storable services. Now, what exactly is good is a matter of opinion, and it also depends on your expectation vis-a-vis the actual delivery of the services. So, what we need to understand is the kind of services that are out there in offer. They are very diverse. Even within the same category of services, it can be very diverse. Take healthcare for instance. What you might get in a government general hospital as opposed to a polyclinic, as opposed to a specialty hospital may all be dramatically different, but it can also surprise you. Maybe the doctor at one small tiny clinic may actually give you better personalized service than a doctor at a super specialty hospital. So, very diverse. So, identifying services with similar marketing needs is very critical for us. The second thing is, you cannot use the product and production led classification of services. It's better for us to look at it because it's so different in terms of characteristics as opposed to products. Now, what can we do therefore? Let's take the characteristics of the services and see how we can then classify this marketplace. One is the degree of intangibility. Some services are tied up to a provision of a physical good much more than other services. For example, if I am offering you hospitality services, it's tied up to the provision of a room. It could be tied up to the provision of a physical meal. So that's one way of looking at it. But if I'm providing you, for example, a massage service, okay, what is the physical product? It is the place that I have, but a lot depends on the quality of the masseur, the kind of oils that might be used, maybe the music that's playing in the background. So there are various ways. The degree of intangibility and the importance of the intangible service being provided is very, very critical here. Second is whether you are aiming it at the producer of some other kind of good or service in turn, or whether you are aiming it at the final end consumer. For example, insurance services may be offered to trucking companies who are providing logistics services to other customers, or you can provide insurance services to people who own homes and are looking at it for their own use. So the way you are operating over there can change how you classify these services. Third is how important is the status of the service in the overall offering. For example, take insurance. Is insurance a critical aspect in the offering of logistics services? Maybe for an individual customer who is a one-time, maybe shifting his house locally within the same city may not be so important. But if he's shifting from one city to another, he might consider taking insurance, because if he loses a whole chunk of his household goods, he's going to be in trouble. Similarly, companies who are transporting very expensive equipment might also think that insurance is very vital. For other people, it may not be so vital because the cost of the good itself may be quite low. Fourth is the extent of inseparability. Today, if I am offering a computer, I may need to say the computer needs to work at the place where it is going to be used. So, there's just giving him a physical product may not help. I need to make sure it's installed with the right software, that when it's installed properly, it has all the necessary backups in terms of UPS or inverters or voltage stabilizers and what have you, and make sure that it actually benefits the customer, because the customer does not get the benefit by just buying the computer, but by getting a working computer. So how much can a service be separated from other things is very critical. How important is the service, or how significant it is to the buyer? In many cases, it may be a very small part. For example, delivery of a pizza. Pizza is the important thing. The person who's delivering it may not be so important. On the other hand, if I'm buying a Eureka Forbes AquaGuard water filter, the kind of person who comes to service the machine or who comes to deliver the machine install is very important for me. I need to know that he is dressed properly, he looks competent to do that kind of an installation. So it matters, how significant that service is with respect to the same product, same kind of thing. Both are home delivered, but there's a difference in the nature of the product and what the significance of the service element over there. Whether the service is separately marketable. Sometimes it is the product which is sold and the service is kind of subsumed within the product. Sometimes it is the service which is important and the other things are kind of add-on. Like I mentioned earlier, in the case of a massage or a spa service, it is the service which is the most important thing. The music, the oil, the the bed or the table, all that is secondary, but the key thing is the service. Whereas in the case of the Eureka Forbes AquaGuard, it is the service is an add-on to the main product, which is the water filter. And finally, what one needs to remember is multiple classifications are used. We have seen this happen even in the case of physical products. Same applies with the case of services as well.